Welcome to the Leadership Lovers Podcast. I'm your host, Will Gladhart, CMO at the Culture Think Tank. At the Culture Think Tank, we empower leaders with metrics that strengthen culture, drive performance, and return. We're here today to learn about the actions leaders have taken to address organizational change. Today, our guest is Rich Schaus, Executive Director at the Gospel Rescue Mission. Thanks again for taking the time to join us.
Oh, thanks for having me here today.
Perfect. Well, let's begin by having you share a little bit with our audience about yourself, your background, and your organization.
All right, so I was born just east of St. Louis. If you've seen the original Vacation movie with Chevy Chase, where his car gets kind of hijacked, that's where I was born and raised.
Wow.
So I was an Eagle Scout. I got a BA in missions and Bible from Central Bible College in Springfield, Missouri. I have a BA in rescue missions work, so working with those who are homeless with City Vision College in Kansas City, and a Master of Leadership degree from Northeastern Oklahoma University. I've been married to my wife, Kara, for 27 years. I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I have a new one that just popped out. I'm a former United States Field Artillery officer. I am a distinguished Toastmaster. I'm the author of a book called Hero Quest. I've been doing this work with the homeless for about 23 years. It'll be 23 years as of mid-March. And I just love working with these people. I have a key Bible verse that kind of shapes my life. It's Micah 6:8, where he says, "He has showed you, man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." And that verse has kind of shaped a lot of my life and got me to the Gospel Rescue Mission. I came here in 2015. The original Gospel Rescue Mission was formed in 1931 in the heart of the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, everything else. The founder, Hobart Cox, decided that this was a huge need, and he sacrificed everything in order to serve those who are homeless. And I kind of came in with that. They had some tough seasons. At one point, the 1990s, the executive director had embezzled countless amount of money. It was on the front page of the paper for about 2 weeks. And so when I got here in 2015, they were still bringing this up, even though it had been over 20 years.
Right.
We got there. And as an organization that makes their living, we don't take any government funding. So our donors' perception of who we are is a key part of what we do. And so working to overcome that, to build that trust back has been a real challenge. So anyway, I was brought here in 2015 to fundraise. They had a building that was literally built before Oklahoma was a state. And they've been retrofitting it and doing all sorts of things. They said, okay, we need to move to a new place and kind of modern electricity and plumbing basics being there. And so they brought me here to do that. The budget at that point was about $300,000. And I needed to raise $1.6 million for the campaign and then bump up our annual to about $800,000 a year. And the challenge is that because we had the lack of trust that had built up in our community over those years, I had to first spend the first 3 years just saying, you can trust us. We are valuable.
Right.
We can help out. So step by step, in order to build that trust, we became more than a shelter. We do give them a place to sleep. We do give food. But our real purpose is to help these men and women to flourish, to get out of being homeless. They're not homeless anymore. A lot of programs are happy to let them stay homeless. We'll give them food. We'll give them clothes, whatever, but they stay homeless. We give them the food and the clothing, but we're teaching them and coaching them on how to live a better life. So that does have job training, get them some mental health help, addiction recovery, help them overcome felonies, whatever it takes. But we do push them on there. So last night we had 39 men, 35 women, 11 children, and then we had 12 in our overflow that were, don't play well with others. So we put them in a little room on their own and let them sleep there so they don't die in the freeze and the cold and snow we've been having.
Right. Wow, it's really interesting, the mission that you and the people, the individuals that you serve. I mean, it's definitely a broad swath of the population. And, when we talked, as we begin our discussion today, we have 3 questions. As a warm-up to our conversation, would you share why you believe a healthy culture is critical?
We spend a great deal of our time at our employment. Whatever job we have, we spend a lot of hours there every week. And if that culture's sick, then we're infecting ourselves. And if we have infected ourselves, then we shorten our lifespan. And then we also take back that infection back to our families.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that. And at Gospel Rescue Mission, I'd say it's even more critical because sick people cannot flourish. And if we're the staff and we're sick emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever that is, we can't really serve these people very well.
I think that's a really great point of, looking at the whole person, but the holistic part of the organization so that you can move individuals forward and help serve. Let's begin with question one. It's been our experience that leaders tend to struggle in several key areas: people, process, or profits. In your role as a CEO, could you identify which one of these areas presented a cultural challenge within your organization?
Well, really, all I could do are probably all three. When it comes
Right.
down to it, they all create some cultural challenges, but finding the right people to have patience and the fortitude and love to help the homeless is a real challenge. A lot of people like the idea of it, but then when they get peed on the first time or vomited on, they're out.
Yeah.
They're done, or they get cussed out. They're gone. Then also, there's many people don't like change, so we have adjusted many of our processes over the years to help people learn and grow. So the processes would be a good conversation. But I really think for today, to really focus in on profits.
Mhm.
We're a nonprofit, but we still need finances to come in to do that. I think that's where we could focus on if we're going to best serve the homeless.
Okay. In terms, obviously, you identified right up front there was an initial profit challenge and a trust challenge. And obviously, that negatively impacted the organization over time. As you're looking at that and as you're looking to move the organization forward, what is one thing that you identified that helped impact the culture positively?
So it actually, interestingly enough, started off with a negative. We were serving some folks and they were mad. They got upset. They didn't like our conversations, however that went. And they went onto social media. Most of it wasn't even true. And
Mhm.
so we had a huge, we called it our media storm of just negativity. They felt like we just weren't feeding people well. We weren't providing them the services they really cared for. And the truth is, we were actually speaking the truth in love to people who don't want to hear about change.
Mhm.
And so the challenge really has come from this series of events. We served a couple of poor meals. We really did have. That was a mistake we had. Our cook was kind of taking his time off and doing that. And some guests took pictures of those meals and then posted on social media. And then the pile on just kind of began from there. Suddenly, everyone had some sort of complaint or concern. Then the negative spin caught on the inside, and we started snipping at each other. And so our internal things started to happen together. We saw our social media numbers start to drop, and then our
Mhm.
finances, our donations started to drop. And this was
Right.
only just on social media. This wasn't even anything newspaper or public media of any other type. And at that exact same time, just because it's a storm, things have to come up. It was the middle of summer in Oklahoma, and our air conditioner in the women's dorm went down. And people made a lot of sound about us not having air conditioning for our folks. And air conditionings aren't cheap to fix. So our
Yeah.
finances going down at the same time that we're getting this negative media was just really damaging to us.
Yeah. So out of that kind of negative piece, what steps did you take, or what was one thing that you did or identified to help impact your organization or culture positively?
So the first thing we did is we became more transparent. We thought we were transparent, but we literally put our donations on our website so you can see how much we brought in. Our revenue is there, and then we did a social media Facebook Live, basically like a TV show, where I just answered all the complaints that we found. I had my staff scour Facebook and Twitter and find all the complaints, and I answered all of them we could find and invited them to ask more questions. And so instead of avoiding the storm, we kind of stepped into it and said, I am here to answer your questions and give you truth versus what everybody else has been doing and saying. At the same time, we also invited our guests to come be part of our process and just talk about what's going on, how we can make our meals better, how we can make things cleaner. They couldn't necessarily help with the air conditioning, but
Right.
they understood all the rest, and they became part of our process. Something that didn't really change, but was added, brought out to the surface a little bit more, is that our guests actually write our policies and our guidelines. And so they get to be a voice in what we're doing. And so now 4 days a week, I'm with our guests, I'm learning from them, and I'm applying this. So instead of avoiding the storm, I guess the key answer is I am just being transparent and stepping out in the middle of the whole thing and being a lightning rod for it all. And that protects the rest of the organization.
That's really interesting, especially addressing that crisis moment through transparency and addressing those concerns and speaking, to everyone as the leader and then leading that through some different changes. But I also love that you're using your guests and also staff as the voice to help shape the organization next steps that impact not only the culture, but how you serve others. Is there anything else as we wrap up that you'd like to add to share with fellow leaders?
Just to remind leaders, I think we know this, but we like to forget and pretend like it doesn't happen. The storms are going to come. It's a guarantee. If you're in a leadership position, they're going to come. So that's why we actually have the job as leaders. We get paid for those storms and negative things that come at us. And if everything always goes smoothly, you're not really needed as a leader. Anybody can function when things are smooth. So the goal is to take those obstacles and allow them to make you stronger and then your organization stronger. And you can do that. You will become anti-fragile, and really unstoppable.
Yeah, I really love that advice. I think that's sage for any leader, especially as they're looking to potentially address and or face a future crisis. So, Rich, I've enjoyed having you as our guest on the Leadership Levers podcast. Thank you again for your insights.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Levers podcast. Find all our Leadership Levers episodes on the Culture Think Tank website at www.theculturethinktank.com or listen on your favorite streaming platform. We'd love to hear from you about the challenges you have faced as a leader. Tune in weekly as we invite leaders to share their experiences in strengthening culture and performance, one action at a time.